Hello, friends. I'm back. Your favorite conservative grandpa is here, ready to go, ready to get back at it. I hope you had a nice New Year's. I certainly did. Had a nice ski vacation with my brother in law, Miguel. Had an excellent time. For those of you that don't know me, I am the number one conservative grandpa on Instagram. You could also find me on Twitter and on Facebook. Now, today, what I want to talk about are some of my favorite memes. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you know that my specialty is putting together interesting graphics, images. They're called, I guess the young people call them memes, whatever that means. And what I try to do with these memes is advocate for conservative values, teach people about conservative values, talk about current events, talk about values, ideas. So I just want to go through several of my favorite of these memes. And I want to start with this one. So this was a very popular one. Nazis take your life, communists take your soul. So some people were a bit confused by this, so let me briefly explain it. Everybody knows that Nazism is an evil doctrine. Nazis call for murdering people that are different than them, specifically Jews. They call for genocide. They call for annihilation. It's a disgusting ideology, and nobody of any goodwill could be for it. Communism, on the other hand, which is very similar to socialism, there's a lot of decent people that promote this ideology because they have no idea how evil this ideology is, how wicked it is. Lots of people don't know that in the 20th century, communism actually killed more people than Nazism. I think the Nazis killed about 50 million people. Communists killed about 100 million people. Some of the greatest mass murderers throughout history, whether it was Mao, Pol Pot, Stalin. These are the greatest mass murderers ever, and they were all communists. Communism destroys ambition, it destroys freedom, it destroys liberty, it destroys societies. And everywhere it's been tried, it's led to death and misery. So this is why Nazis do take your life, but communists take your soul. Next, Lindsey Graham, you're an American hero. So I created this one, I think during or right after the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. Everyone will remember that Brett Kavanaugh was Trump's Supreme Court nominee. Now he's a justice. He was confirmed, thanks in large part to Lindsey Graham. Brett Kavanaugh was treated terribly by the Democrats. They dug 35 years into his past, brought up irrelevant stories about drinking and partying and throwing up. So some woman claimed that he grabbed her and threw her on a bed and messed with her clothes. Meanwhile, she has no idea when or where it happened. Her story was completely inconsistent. And because of this, something that supposedly happened 35 years ago with zero evidence, the Democrats wanted to destroy a man's life, Brett Kavanaugh. Well, thank God President Trump stuck with Brett Kavanaugh, and thanks in large measure to Lindsey Graham's speech on the Senate floor, advocating for Kavanaugh and scolding the Democrats, Brett Kavanaugh got through and was voted to be a Supreme Court justice. Next, anti-Semitism is the oldest and most evil hatred in the world. I stand with the Jewish people of Pittsburgh. I hope this Nazi bastard is put to death for this evil crime. So I created this after the evil terrorist attack at the Jewish synagogue at Pittsburgh, where 11 innocent Jews were murdered. Anti-Semitism is different and more insidious than other hatreds and bigotries. Normal racism is thinking somebody that looks different than you is inferior. It's simple bigotry racism, and it's evil. But anti-Semitism is a conspiracy theory where the hater blames the Jews for all the evils that are going on in their society or in the world. Lots of people blame Israel for all the problems in the world, and anti-Semites blame the Jews for all the problems in their society, or anti-Semites do both. They hate Israel and they hate the Jews. Usually that's the case. That's why anti-Semitism is so much more likely to lead to violence and even genocide, because if you're truly believe that somebody is causing evil against you and causing all these problems, you're going to want to do something about it. Whereas racism, you just kind of think somebody is inferior to you. Next, do you believe in freedom of speech, tolerance for opposing views, and a race-blind society? Great, you're a conservative. I love this one. All these issues that true liberals fought for over the last 50, 75 years, these are the values that conservatives are trying to preserve, because liberalism today has been taken over by the left. The left doesn't believe in freedom of speech. Take a look at the internet, social media, Facebook, Google, Twitter. Conservatives are censored all the time. The same as on college campuses. Conservatives are censored. Tolerance for opposing views. Who's more tolerant of opposing views? The conservatives or liberals? Today's liberals are leftists. They're not tolerant of conservatives. Lots of liberal family members have stopped talking to their Trump supporting mom or dad or brother or sister. It happens all the time. It's never the other way around. It's never the conservative that stops talking to the supposed liberal. It's the liberal that stops talking to the conservative. So who's more tolerant? In a race-blind society, I mean, who's obsessed with race nowadays? Conservatives or leftists? I mean, all leftists talk about is race. The liberal ideal was that race is insignificant. Race means nothing. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown. Doesn't matter. What matters is the content of your character. That's what conservatives think today. The leftists are obsessed with race. The leftists are obsessed with affirmative action, obsessed with hating white people, obsessed that the Democrat nominee has to be black, or it has to be a woman, or it has to be a Hispanic. The conservatives, the Republicans say the presidential nominee needs to be somebody who's smart, needs to be somebody who has good ideas. The Democrats say the person needs to have these immutable characteristics. So it's pretty amazing today that conservatives are the ones preserving all the liberal victories from decades ago. Next, in the name of some perverted notion of fairness, we allow biological men to dominate women's sports. This is insane. So I talk about this a lot. I'm going to talk about it now. Transgenderism is a disorder. If somebody has gender dysphoria, we should have compassion for them. They're children of God. They're clearly suffering. And we should feel sorry for them and try to help them. But we shouldn't encourage them. We shouldn't celebrate them. We shouldn't encourage them that you need to have, you need to mutilate your genitals, that you need to cut off your breasts, that you need to have complete reconstructive surgery to feel better. I mean, in what other part of life do we tell somebody, oh, you don't feel good about the way you look? Have surgery and completely change the way you look. That's not a healthy thing. And then allowing men who think they're women to compete in women's sports, this is just outrageous and it's dangerous. And we see that in a lot of these women's sports now, whether it's cycling or weightlifting or rugby, we're seeing biological men dominate women. I mean, how is this fair? Where are all the feminists out there? It's really insane what's going on, and something needs to be done to stop it. Next, like this post if you think President Trump is treated unfairly by the media. I mean, President Trump is treated so unfairly, it would be a joke if it wasn't so serious. We used to sort of have a fair press a long time ago. I kind of remember it back in my day when I was young. Now we have one conservative outlet, Fox News, and we have about 100 left-wing outlets. And the thing that pisses me off is at least Fox News is honest. Fox News tells its viewers, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, they say we're conservatives. This is what we believe. This is our opinion. CNN lies to you. CNN lies to the viewer. CNN says we're objective, we're not biased. And then they have a bunch of left-wing supposed journalists, people give their opinion about how much they hate Trump. And we're supposed to think this is news. That's how the entire media is. The entire media hates Trump. They don't give him a fair shake. They try to make him look terrible. They call him evil for doing things that Obama did. And that's just the way it is. So people need to be aware of that. Next, the left protests, riots, and screams, and the right votes. Another self-explanatory one. As far as group violence goes, it's almost exclusively on the left. I mean, when Donald Trump was elected president, there were riots in the street. When a cop shoots a black criminal and it's under dispute as to what happened, you have leftists rioting in the streets, even though oftentimes the cop was justified because the cop's life was in danger. You have leftists rioting in the streets. You have Antifa rioting, causing property damage, setting things on fire. In Portland and San Francisco, the criminals have taken over the street. And you don't have this on the right. On the right, you have, individual nut jobs. You have individual evil people, that you have to be aware of. But it's nothing like on the left where you have this group violence, where you have large groups of people causing destruction to cities. And but you'll never hear that from the press. The press and lots of people will say, oh, all the violence is on the right. It's just a lie. It's not true. Next, Europe is dying thanks to naive leftism and unrestricted immigration of people who do not believe in Western values. America must not repeat these mistakes. Trump won't. Europe is dying. Europe is a dying continent. It's a dying group of countries. The European Union, they've imported millions of people from parts of the Middle East that don't believe in liberty, that lots of people that hate women, that hate gay people, that believe in honor killings. You have whole segments of European cities that are off limits to the police. The police cannot go there, no-go zones. You've seen a drastic spike in terrorism in Europe over the last decade. And you have lots of Democrats in America that want to replicate this, that want to replicate what's going on in Europe. Europe, in 100 years, Europe will be recognizable. In 50 years even. That's what happens when you don't believe in yourself, when you believe in multiculturalism, when you believe that all cultures are equal. All cultures aren't equal. This isn't about skin color, this is about values, and we need to protect our values. Next, back in my day, if you didn't stand for the national anthem, we knew you were a commie. I like this one because it sort of serves as an example of how I am so upset with the way the sports world is going. I'm a big sports fan, but over the last 4 or 5 years, specifically in basketball and football, we see so much politics, left-wing politics, Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the flag. Lots of basketball players, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, the Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, criticizing Donald Trump, demonizing him, the championship teams refusing to go to the White House. It's terrible, and of course all of this is cheered on ESPN. Colin Kaepernick was cheered on ESPN by all the pundits for trashing America, for hating America, for demonizing the police. Sports was supposed to be something that connected us all, that we could watch, that we could enjoy, that we could participate in without without petty politics. Politics divides us. When you're at a sporting event, it doesn't matter if the player on the field is a Democrat or Republican, or if the guy next to you is a Democrat or a Republican, because you're not worried about that. You're worried about the game, the performance. But that's all changed now, and sports athletes feel that we really care what they think about Trump, or we care what they think about politics, and it's really kind of ruining the specialness that sports once had. And that's very sad. And I think that you're going to see in 5, 10, 20 years, if this continues, that Republicans are just going to tune out sports. We're not interested in watching people that think that we're evil. Next, God bless Trump for leaving the disastrous Iran deal. America does not appease evil. America confronts evil. Now, one of the worst things President Obama did as president was he signed the disastrous Iran deal. This deal gave $150 billion to anti-Semitic, terrorist-supporting dictators in Iran. It was an awful deal, and Trump pulled away from the deal. One of the great things that Trump did. He said he was going to pull out of the deal. He did. This was a great statement for American strength. It was a great statement in support of our ally Israel. And now we've re-implemented sanctions on Iran. And there's a real good chance now that we're going to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Iran is the number one national security threat to America, to the world, and Trump is dealing with it. So God bless Trump. So that's it, friends. Those are some of my favorite memes, which is what they call it nowadays, a meme. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please share it with your friends. Please share it with your family. Please share it with anybody that wants to know the truth. But, beware, if you do share it with a liberal, they're probably going to get all upset and throw a temper tantrum, and they might end up hating you, so take that into account. And I look forward to talking to you guys next time.